I'm Kathy Prudhomme, and I am the President and CEO of Eagle Village. Eagle Village was founded by my father almost 50 years ago now. It was created as a place for families and at that time for delinquent youth. Today our mission is still the same. We're a place to help hurting families and youth. The needs of our children continue to be more and more intense and more diverse. We must continue to be increasing in our ability to be a place for families. Most of those families don't have the resources. At the time of their crisis, they don't have the understanding, and they're so busy in the survival mode that they need that help. They need that outside perspective, they need that person, and they need to know other people have traveled this journey and that they can be successful. And most of these families, they're surviving life experiences too. It's very easy for us to put the blame and kind of characterize, but the truth is they're incredibly hurting families. And often there's a real generational pattern of hurt and abuse and dysfunction and substance abuse or economic trauma and sexual abuse that is pervasive year to year to year to year, generation to generation. When we get them, usually as we unpack the genograms and their family history, we just see a spaghetti scramble of relationships and conflict and enmeshment and coping skills. Our kids get caught in that cycle of trying to find their value. When they find it and you see it, it opens first in their eyes as they begin to look you in the eye, because when our kids come in, the first experience is that they're all disheveled, they won't look you in the eye, their face is down, they shuffle with their feet. And so as they begin to understand that we truly do care, and helping them to know, yes, you're important, and you need to live within the boundaries. And recreating that structure of, I care very much about you, and here's what we need to do today. And often I go to bed thinking about the youth that's struggling and trying to think, what could we do? What more could we do? What more could we offer, and how could we better meet the needs of that youth? Help them to remove the roadblocks so that they can find out that they are valuable, they're lovable, and they're successful.
I would wake up at around 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, because I would go to bed at about 6 in the morning and I would sleep, and I would wake up and I would smoke marijuana in the morning right when I woke up, and then I would eat and I would get dressed and do my hair and makeup and then smoke some more marijuana, and then I would get online on Facebook and invite one of my male friends over to drink and smoke with me.
Before I came to Eagle Village, I was on the run when I was at a group of guys' house for a month, and my mom called me. I would talk to my parents, but my mom always asked, "Where are you at?" and I would never answer. They called me a habitual runner.
I was a 4-time felon, I came from a house that was just crippling. I was the kid on the block you weren't allowed to hang out with because his parents were crazy. There was a lot of things that happened at my house that a kid probably shouldn't see. Guns to my mom's head in the middle of the night, things that, bottles being broke over heads and arguing, and a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs.
I would do drugs and drink and smoke cigarettes, and I just found out that that wasn't the way.
I never really had a structure in my life, and I just needed somebody to take me out and tell me all the things that I need in my life and help me rebuild my character.
These are kids that live in your community. These are kids that look like your kids, that act like your kids, up to a certain point. And then there's the point that they drop off, and the point that they go underground or they go off the radar, they don't go to school, they don't come home at night, but you wouldn't recognize these kids. You can't pick them out of a a lineup. You can't pick them out of a schoolyard.
When I first got here, I felt like none of this was my fault. I felt like my worker just hated me and she wanted to get me out of my mom's house because she didn't like my mom. But after staying here for a while, I realized that it was my fault and they were my actions that led me here. They just kind of taught me that you need to love everybody, and no matter if you hate them, you need to get along with them.
Learning to get along with others and to live in an environment where they can socially interact with others, where they can problem solve, where they can understand empathy and relationship skills is such an important part of what they learn as they live now here with others. And as we then translate that into going not just always home, but back into community. So often youth come here and they've been through the system and they're system smart, and so they think, I'll do what I need to do, I'll skate through the program, I'll put on whatever it is they need to see in order to complete the expectation for time.
Man, this is gonna be cool. We're going camping for 10 days. Yeah. And then I remember the first crash. They call them a crash because you set your compass and you just crash through whatever it is. And we went through a cedar swamp. And it was horrible. It was only a mile long. Maybe it was a mile and a half. A mile and a half. I'm thinking, well, a mile and a half, that's nothing. We'll be there before you know it. It took us 10 hours to get through the cedar swamp because it was so thick and there was just these dead cedar trees everywhere. You'd crush them, bees would sting you. You know, it was sweltering hot. We're in the middle of nowhere and it was so dense, you really couldn't see where you were at. So your sense of direction was just gone. And you gotta understand, you're with 10 delinquent kids in the middle of the woods and we're all struggling. So after the first day, that whole anticipation went away. It was like, this sucks.
In the middle of that cedar swamp, John learned a valuable life lesson, that he was important, he had value, and he could begin to make decisions that would have a positive impact, not just on him, but on others, and that there was a design that was at work here that he could be a part of.
It showed me that in spite of adversity, I can get through anything. Because in that cedar swamp, it was adversity, let me tell you. It gave me something throughout life that I can say, I can turn this around. No matter how bad life got, I knew I could turn it around.
Forgiveness is such a powerful component of what happens here. And first being able to understand the concept of a God who loves you unconditionally and is willing to offer that forgiveness. And then forgiveness for the things that have happened to you, and acknowledge that doesn't mean that it wasn't painful and it wasn't very difficult, but then forgiving yourself for the path that brought you here. And all of those pieces of forgiveness wrapped together in an understanding of hope and healing.
I accepted Christ into my heart, you know, and it was truly the day I was saved, you know. My destiny changed, my legacy changed, you know. Christ entered my heart that night because I still remember it to this day.
Those seeds that were planted go deep into their heart, and when they are establishing their own homes, when they've graduated from school, when they're moving out into jobs, that's when we often see the dots reconnect, the seeds take root, and as with John, the flourishing begins in a way that is pretty incredible.
This was the safest place I ever was. So as excited as I was to leave here, there was a part of me that didn't want to go. I went back to a situation that there was no support network for me. So when I left here, even though I had some fabulous tools and I had this phenomenal relationship, it was there waiting. I didn't want to go to prison. I didn't want to be incarcerated anymore. So I knew to break in, steal, rob, and hurt people weren't an option anymore. That's one thing, one of the tools the village gave me is anger and hurting other people just doesn't work. It's going to get you in trouble. That was gone. That stayed here.
Our youth really do want to make a difference. And what they can do when they leave here is first make a difference in their life, which is huge, but also their family, whether that's a younger sibling or oftentimes it's even a parent or an aunt or uncle who, because of the decisions they're making, it encourages that other person in their life. And then we see and hear that it goes out from there even to their friends, their community, and ultimately to where their path leads for their life. So our kids are incredibly determined. And when they make the determination that they want to make a difference, watch out.
What I could do now is, of course, finish my program, go home, help my little sisters because she's 11 years old and she is very mouthy to my stepdad. Not necessarily my mom, but she's kind of following down my footsteps. It would really be hard for me to watch my little sister go down the same path, and I just need to have her learn that she needs to respect her parents, even if it's not her real dad. He has done more than my real dad has, and I don't want my little sister to end up in prison.
What I can do now is help younger people in my community. Like when I leave here, I'm probably going to start like a community group. I need to help other people because I don't want to see anybody else come in here with the lifestyle I have. And my life was crap basically, and now it's better. It's like the sun. It's bright and beautiful.
I like the guy I see in the mirror today. I love him. You know, I love the man that God has created. And one of the privileges I get is I get to go to the Macomb County Juvenile Justice Center once a month, where I was for 10.5 months. Actually, I was there about 2 years, and talk to them kids about Jesus Christ and tell them that their mistakes don't define them. That because you made a mistake and you're here, that does not mean that's where you're going.
So often I see in my friends and my family and my community, people who get stuck. And what has happened to them is what will define them for their future. And they're not willing to do the hard work to grow. They're not willing to look beyond their own self-perspective to see what can they do for others and receive the great blessing that comes by being involved in others. And so what can I do? I can look for opportunities for my own growth, and I can look for opportunities to give back to those people around me, and I can continue to do the hard work of growing up. It's hard work.